Hey everyone, I hope you're taking it easy and your day has been great thus far. For this video we will be going through an unboxing and review of Hound. And Hound is basically part of this little Transformers retro line that's come out this year being 2023, with a bit of a repackaging and redeco pretty much from the 1986 Transformers movie. So Hound will be pretty much starting off this little retro collection. I do have a few more in the backlog, and I do know there's probably about another 4 to be released in the upcoming month. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes, because there's a lot of these figures that I never got to own back in the day, Hound being one of them. So front of the packaging, we have Hound in both his vehicle mode and his robot mode. Now obviously the figure is not going to look like this. This is very much animation centric, and I do like how it's pretty much in front of the shuttle that Prime would have taken to get to Earth. Top of the box, as was the novelty back in the day, just some very quick conversion steps on how to transform Hound. There will be more than 4 steps. It was just to highlight some of the transformation process. So I will admit, it's definitely very cool to see some of this little nostalgic feel. And also we have another side shot on the box of Hound in both his modes as well. So I will admit, that is very cool. And I do like the artwork. It's very nice to have that throwback to the 1986 movie, colours and all. And obviously the animation look very, very cool. Back of the box, so once again we get to see Hound in his robot mode, his vehicle mode. No idea how much of this is still going to be die cast, time will tell. And we also do still have his tech specs and his little stats as well, so very, very cool. Quick close up on that. So yes, it is a bit of a nice little callback to figures from some time ago. I mean, this would have been what? This is probably close to 40 years old. Anyway, so that was a nice quick look at the packaging side of things. So definitely a very cool retro feel about it. Time to open up the box, get Hound out and have a better look. Now, back in the day, I know they were in their vehicle modes. I have a feeling that will still be the case. And with Hound out of his packaging, I was right, they will start off in their vehicle mode. And I will admit, this is like a weird nostalgic trip down memory lane. Granted, I never had Hound, but still, I have not seen this type of array of weapons and accessories in a very long time. So on the left side of things, so we have one handheld weapon, a mountable weapon. We do include very old school missile launcher with missiles, and there's some additional accessories here for Hound in his vehicle mode. Here is Hound, and yes, that is still die cast. His head moves, but that's definitely still die cast. And the manual. So having a quick look at his manual. So we do have the quick steps on how to attach those accessories there. So spare tire, gas can, and his little weapon. And then starting through the transformation process, there's the first 4 steps there. Nine steps of transformation. It's been a while. Obviously there weren't heaps and heaps and heaps of transformation steps back in the day. Same with articulation, but that's okay. And then we have a few steps on how to attach the various weapons in his robot mode. I'm just completely floored at the whole actual working missile launcher gimmick, because we haven't had that in a very long time. So that is Hound's manual. Will I use it? Probably, because at the same time, it's a cheap one figure. still need to have a little bit of certain care taken. Anyway, let's start with his robot mode accessories because we'll see them again later on. So first off, he will have his handheld weapon here. Standard one color in a light grey plastic. It's definitely not too bad. It's quite thin, but it is what it is. A shame it's not his cartoon accurate based weapon, but at the same time I don't think it could be helped because probably a lot of these would have come over from Diaclone. So that is that. We'll see that again later. The missile launcher, which is actually in two colors, so that little bit of grey at the bottom and Hound's usual green. Here is the firing button at the very top, and the missiles will go in there. So that's very cool that we get that. And then lastly, yes, back in the day, we had little runners for missiles. So 3 missiles in total, 2 of which will be spares in case something happened. So it's very nice that we get to see these once again. So those were his accessories for his robot mode, which we'll have a look at later on. As for everything else, so here we have his spare tire that will go on the back, like so. Very cool. The little gas can. Now apparently it went on like that. Yes, let me just reconsult the manual. Yes, and then lastly we do have this little weapon here for which will go at the very back of his Jeep mode. It will have a little bit of articulation, but definitely not too much. So that will happily That's really weird. You would think that it would hold on. What sorcery is this? I'm very confused as to how this works. Well, I'm just going to put off to the side. So those are the accessories attached to Hound's vehicle mode. Anyway, Hound himself. So Hound is a very nice looking Jeep mode, and surprisingly, for the time, actually isn't too badly detailed and realistic. So we have Hound from the front, his side, the back, just bearing in mind that the accessory is attached, the other side from the top, from the bottom. His head does move, very awkward, but that's okay. Now I can confirm these do appear to be rubberized tires, which is very cool. Unlike that, that's just a plastic cap. So we know we have this little side weapon here, which I feel like it should tilt up more, but it seems to be doing more tilting down than tilting up. So the wheels definitely work quite well. Very, very well. In terms of other things that will move, so his windscreen will definitely move up and down. And I'm pretty sure that's just to facilitate his transformation steps as opposed to actively moving up and down. But at the same time, it's a Jeep. I'm pretty sure they would have done that a few times. These chairs, I believe, will also fold down as well. Once again, that's more for transformation purposes. And watch me actually do partial transformation, which we do not want to be doing, not just yet. As for Hound's colours, so he is sporting a very nice, maybe an olive green? think his original figure was a much more darker green, I think. Don't quote me though. But the green does feel like it's more aligned to his animation colors. We do have some extra little colors here with a bit of yellow. His Autobot insignia in red. So we have some of the Jeep details just in some of this light grey, and this little, I think that's going to be a winch system, and a very interesting lighter green. But overall, his vehicle mode is very, very cool. Oh, he also has the black here for the seats. So definitely very nice and nostalgic feeling for Hound's vehicle mode. Very, very nice. Scaling wise, because I know I had someone ask, I'm going to say it's very subjective. He probably might sit around a deluxe scale, but this is Generation 1 and scale was not a thing. Case in point, the combiners obviously being a good classic example. Obviously not to scale, and as time went on, I mean, you had more, I don't want to say complex, but you had a few more figures that had a bit more articulation, such as the stuff that would have come out post the movie. Anyway, that's enough on Hound's alt mode. I'm going to transform Hound. I'm not going to do it on camera because just in case, and then we can have a quick look at his robot mode, which I don't think will take too long because he's not going to be sporting a lot of articulation. And then I'll just have some quick thoughts about Hound. Okay, and with Hound now in his robot mode, it definitely wasn't too difficult, but it was nice to not have to do it on camera and in a timely manner. Maybe at some point in time I'll do like a really quick short or something of transforming Hound when I'm not having to do a video. Anyway, Hound from the very front of his robot mode, and I will confirm I have equipped his accessories. Hound from the side, the back, the other side, and just a bit of a close-up on some of his head detailing and torso. Obviously won't need to talk about colours, everything's still there, but we do see a little bit more yellow now, particularly around the forearm / cuffs on his arms, and just some on his waist as well. Now, in terms of articulation, remember this is Generation 1, we're going back shy of 40 years. The only things that really move is basically his arms. And even then, all they do is just, they move up, they move down. That's basically it. So they're not the most articulated figures. So back in the day, I don't even know how we got around things. Clearly we did. But compared to modern Transformers now, most people will completely say these are literal paperweights because for all intents and purposes, there's no real articulation, so there's not a lot of playability. But given my age, my appreciation for Generation 1, for obvious reasons, the movie and everything, this is just like a little ball of nostalgia. So definitely very cool. Now, equipping the weapon, pretty straightforward, just goes into the hand like so. And if I really wanted to, I can probably do the exact same thing in the other hand, just to do something different. There you go. And the missile launcher just clips onto the side here. Now, it does look like it will clip on both sides. So just for sake of discussion, if I try to take that out, so there's just the sections here that basically clips into. So yes, you can definitely clip it two different ways, although I have a feeling that it's probably been designed to primarily clip this way, especially given that there's no detailing here. Yes, I did bang the stand, and there's detailing there. So it just does feel a lot more centered when doing it that way. yes, I did attach one of the missiles into the missile launcher. Yes, I am going to try and shoot the missile. You know what? To heck with it. It's going to go flying. It's going to go flying. Now, these missile launchers were very fiddly back in the day. And even this one right now. You know what? I'm just going to take this off. I have a feeling, and I actually did get it working earlier, that sometimes you just have to I actually did actually get it working earlier, and I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. And now it doesn't work for me. Anyway, this is becoming slightly embarrassing. Let's not try and continue on with that very odd endeavor. Anyway, that is pretty much the extent of Hound's robot mode. Now, I will say I did have to attach all his accessories on his vehicle mode, so there is nothing there, given that they would pretty much be here at the front of his feet, and that's also at the back of his Jeep, so it does make unfortunate sense to take those off. As for the transformation for the 9 steps, it's fairly straightforward and easy. Transformers back then weren't exactly what they are now, for obvious reasons. So I easily could have done the transformation process while recording. I just didn't want to feel too pressured just in case something did go a little weird and pear-shaped. But yeah, transformation definitely isn't too difficult. Now that I've done it once, I definitely wouldn't need the manual again. But yeah, it's easy. It's not complex. But as I said, for some of us, there's just that nostalgic feel about the figure these days. So I'll just bring back everything. So those were the accessories from his vehicle mode, the remains of the missile runner. So, what are my thoughts on Generation 1 Hound, particularly in his Transformers the Movie deco? From a deco perspective, he looks great. Definitely does align better to his movie incarnation. Granted, it was only in the movie for like, what, about 30 seconds if that. And I think that was basically when Prime Shuttle landed on Earth. No doubt he was probably killed off screen, but that's another conversation for another day. So visually, Hound looks really good. Definitely nice to see some of the old Generation 1 level of accessories included with the figure, because sometimes we don't necessarily get the same degree of figure accessories. The biggest thing has always been nice is the working missile launcher, obviously working missile launcher in this case, but that is still a very cool novelty that has been lost over time. What else is there? So the accessories, the deco, transformation is fairly straightforward. Once you've done it once, you definitely don't need the manual anymore. It's definitely nice to feel the original die-cast toys. I mean, Hound, despite his size, he does have some heft to him. Granted, a lot of it's mainly in his legs, but you don't feel some of that die-cast feel anymore in the current line of Transformers, which, you know, is fine. They make up for it in other ways. But once again, it's just, if you ever had any Generation 1 toys, and whether you lost them over time or completely forgot about them, I think you would hold something like this and go, I remember that feeling. So that is also a very cool thing about it. And in terms of criticism, because we'll try and cover a few things. Generation 1 toys have pretty much aged pretty poorly compared to the main line of Transformers figures, whether the current ones or even figures within the past decade. A lot of things have changed, so they are very much retro, they're very much, you know, nostalgic type figures of a time now gone. You'd be very hard pressed to compare, especially playability, between a toy back from the 80s and a toy in, you know, the circa 2020s. Huge divide. Don't even bother. So, you know, that being said, these retro figures are not designed for playability. Definitely not. They're definitely for the very nostalgic collector, such as myself. It is a little bit pricey. Even I think when the commemorative editions came out in the early 2000s, I don't think those were too bad. Granted, they weren't trying to be movie color accurate, but I don't think the prices were as bad. Prices are definitely feeling a bit ouchies this day and age, which I guess is understandable. I mean, it's more targeted to the adult collector. The smaller child probably would not really enjoy this for the before mentioned lack of playability. So with that all being said, for those who grew up in classic G1 times, including the movie and including any time thereafter, I think there will definitely be a good degree of gravitation to these retro figures, especially if you never had them before. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I never had Hound back in the day. So this is the very first time in close to 40 years. So it has that more emotional feel and nostalgic feel to finally have this. So I think for the adult collectors, for anyone in that type of frame of mind, you'll definitely appreciate it. For those who've basically shed their G1 roots and adapted into modern time Transformers, well, I suspect if you did pick any of these retro ones up, it'd probably be more very specific characters, not necessarily the entire release wave. And it's also subject to how many of these we get. I think there was probably just shy of 50 characters in total in the movie, excluding Unicron. And I think there's about 8 retros that have either been released or soon to be released. So that's almost a fifth of the total movie cast. So it'll be interesting to see if they ever do the rest. I kind of hope they do. Dinobots being a good example, because I would love to own the entire G1 Dinobots. I had Snarl, but it's just one of those things that you learn from the 80s. Getting teams of Transformers was always very, very difficult. You always missed out stuff, so who knows? Time will tell. But it'll be cool to see if the range continues in this retro line. So yes, if you're a very pure adult collector and have very firm roots back into Generation 1, I think you will appreciate this retro line. If you're not too much into the retro series, or you do feel that, you know, especially these types of figures now are a little bit dated, I dare say archaic, then feel free to give them a miss. And if there is one that catches your fancy, just stick to particular characters, because it's going to become a bit of a repetitious thing. Some of them will have a bit more playability than others, but once again, it was a sign of the times. I'm definitely glad I have Hound now. I will definitely be looking forward to doing more of these retro unboxings. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out for those. And yes, there will definitely be a short for Hound to come out as well. I suspect the short will be very short because I don't have to worry about articulation, which is always a blessing. So definitely keep an eye out for that. So yes, if you like Generation 1, go for it. If you're not too fast, then the choice is really up to you. I will leave the unboxing and review there because I wasn't too sure how the pacing was going to go because it is a bit of a retro figure, but now I have a rough idea of what to think about for future retro videos. So thank you very much for watching this very interesting retro unboxing and review video of Hound. Feel free to leave a like or comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the content. All of this does help support the channel and I do greatly appreciate it. Extra content can also be found on my Instagram account, link is in the description below. It's also the same handle as the YouTube channel, and as I mentioned probably just a mere 2 minutes ago, there will be a complimentary short of Hound to also go with this video. Normally I would say to show off different, articulation and playability of the figure, but maybe not so much for these retro ones. With that all being said, stay safe, take care. I will catch you all in a future video, whether it's more of these retro unboxings or back to the more 2020s based Transformer figures where I do continue doing a lot of those unboxings, or possibly something else on the channel. See ya.